Welcome to the Fundamentals of Programming. My name is Destiny Brotubo, and I'm doing this for Programmer City. This course is for absolute beginners, so we're going to make everything as basic as possible so that everybody can be able to comprehend what we'll bring to you in this course. So even if you're not coming from an IT background or you are not that conversant with computer programming, this is the course for you. Also, we'll also encourage some of the people that are already into computer programming, maybe the intermediate programmers, that still find some things difficult in terms of the core programming concepts. You'll still find one or two things that we're going to discuss about here because even though we're starting from the basics, at least we're going to go to a level where intermediate programmers can also benefit from whatever we'll be discussing here. Okay, so it might interest you to know that this course will be done in series. So we're going to bring different parts of it to you in different series because we'll try to split the course into different parts, and each part will be discussing some fundamental concepts which we'll outline in our course outline. Okay, as you can see, these are course outline as we've laid it out, how we're going to follow it in this course. First of all, we're going to be talking about what is programming. We're going to look at programs. We're going to look at what programming languages are. We're going to then look at our syntax and semantics. Then we'll move to program statements and based on various languages because we're going to be using not just one particular language. We're going to mix some language because we'll be looking at the concept of programming in terms of different languages, the different in syntaxes and the similarities between the various languages. Okay, then we'll be looking at the attribute statements, that is various statements like we said. We'll be looking at variables and constants which will uh, involve us looking into data types as well. We're going to look at assignment statements, we'll look at input statements, then we'll look at operators and their order of precedence. Then we'll go over to control structure. Okay. Now, when we get to control structure, I believe by then we would have been talking about some little bit advanced concept in programming. Okay. So then when we get to methods, which we'll talk about functions and procedure, or otherwise called subroutines, then we'll look at object-oriented programming. So if for a beginner, if you were able to cover this whole thing that we're going to talk about, I think it will be like moving from a complete beginner to an intermediate level in your programming skill. Though where the programming will get very, very advanced is when we get to methods as well as object-oriented programming. Uh, Maybe not in this particular course, but in subsequent courses, we might talk about other paradigm in programming like the functional programming and the procedural programming. Though we'll be using procedural programming, but we're not going to really lay emphasis on it in this course. Okay. Okay. So that said, let's head over to the main business of the day, which is what is computer programming. Now, when we talk about computer programming, it might interest you to know that we don't just need to go into computer programming at once. First and foremost, we're supposed to understand what computer programs are. Okay, now when we talk about computer programs are simply a set of instructions that are written in a sequential order to control the computer in order to perform some predefined task. In a nutshell, you can just say a set of instruction for given to the computer for the computer to execute. Okay, so now when we talk about instruction are simply uh, rules that governs a particular action. That means if you want to direct somebody or something on how to do some certain things, you simply give out instructions. Okay, I believe you must have heard the word the computer is a dummy. Okay, it's a popular word whenever you're into or whenever you're reading the core concept of computer. When you're looking at computer, the some of the uh, features of the computer. They said the computer is a dummy. Yes, the computer is a dummy, but the computer is very, very intelligent as well. Now, what makes the computer intelligent is because there are instructions that controls how the computer operates. That means everything the computer does, it's based on the instruction. That is why when we are defining the computer, normally we've often defined the computer as an electronic device that accepts data as input. It stores and processes this data, then gives out the processed data as output, which are information. Okay, so a basic definition it can end there, but as a professional or someone that really understand how the computer work, you know that all these things you said the computer do are done under program control. That means it's the program that controls the computer in order for it to even accept data in the first place. Before you talk about the storing, how the data will be stored as well as processed to give out the meaningful output, which are the information. So without programs, the computer cannot do this. So that's why sometimes you come across when they where they term the computer that the computer is a dummy. It's because of this. Okay, because without the program, without the set of instructions that are laid down by somebody for the computer to follow, the computer is just a dummy. Okay, so now when we talk about computer programming is simply the act of writing computer programs. Okay, so we've seen what computer programs are. So computer programming is just a process or an act of writing this program in a certain programming language. Okay, so we're going to look at different programming languages as we proceed. And a computer program in its human readable form or human readable format is known as source code. Okay, so we're going to see the various programming language, and we're going to see that there are some programs that are not actually in human readable format. So that now brings us to programming languages. Okay, now to start, we're going to see that when we talk about programming language is not just a particular language. Okay, but technically, when we talk about computer programming language, we can see it as a digital language that is used to instruct the computer in order to control how it processes data and handle various predefined tasks. Remember when we talk about computer programs, we said there are a set of instructions that instruct the computer in order to perform some predefined tasks. Now, when we say predefined task, that is to say the tasks that the computer does are already predefined. Take for instance, in your WhatsApp or your Facebook, these are applications that are developed okay with one programming language or the other. Now, before this application were developed, definitely the person that developed the application already have it in mind that okay, this is what I'm trying to develop. I'm trying to create an application that will enable people talk to each other via either a text channel or audio channel or video channel. Okay, so these are tasks that are already known by whoever programmed the software. So before you set out to design any software or write any program, okay, you must have had the idea or what the program is going to do in your mind. Okay, so that is just it. So computer program, any language you set to use, you simply refer to it as a computer programming language. Okay, that said, we can also see computer programming language as just like I said when I started, we're going to look at things from a layman's perspective. So, in short, you can just say computer programming language is used to write computer programs. Of course, we know what computer programs are: set of instructions. Okay, so you can also see them as every other natural language. Of course, when I talk about natural language, I mean human spoken language. Okay, so every language, according to the study of linguistics, have what they call the syntax, and semantics. Okay, now it is a syntax in every case that determine the semantics. So this means when learning them, you must consider their grammatical structure, okay? Like for instance, if I'm learning English language, I'm going to learn how to write sentence, know what a sentence is, know what a word is, know what an alphabet is, then know what punctuation is. I can differentiate between verbs, nouns, pronouns, and even when we talk about punctuation and some of the symbols like exclamation and the rest, all these are very, very important, and they have their various meaning when it comes to English language. And I believe it's like that for every other language. If you're learning French, you're learning Spanish, it's the same thing all over. So when you're learning programming language, since it's a language, there is no difference in it. So you're also going to see different structures, different punctuation, different symbols, different characters as you're learning programming. So I want you to have that in mind, so you know that every language has syntax and what we call semantics. Okay, that said, now let's look in details what syntax and semantics are all about. Okay, now I have some example listed that you can see. I have father, I have fathers with an S, then I have father also with an S, but in between the father and the S, we have a symbol there, which is an apostrophe. Now, these examples are in English language. Okay, when I say father, father is simply a person, okay, possibly a male that is the head of a family. Okay, then when we say fathers, fathers refer to not just one father. We're talking about more than one father. Okay, that's what gives us fathers. Now, how do we know the difference? It's just with the additional s that is appended to the front. We know that, okay, this have a different meaning. Now, the last father there is also pronounced fathers, but with an apostrophe before the s. Now, that shows the sign of ownership. So in common English language, I just explained three different words that looks the same, though actually if we're looking at it from a perspective, they are the same thing, but in different context. Okay, but what I'm trying to just point out here, or should I say the point I'm trying to make here, is the way you write this father or fathers, just like the illustration I made there, determine the meaning that you read out of it. Okay, so if you go to the second point there, I have monkey head and I have head monkey. Okay, these two things, according to English language, they are two different things. Okay, monkey head can be the head of a monkey, while head monkey can be maybe the leader of a group of monkeys. Okay, but when we're talking about, let's say, translating this particular phrase monkey head into other language, maybe we're translating it to a local language, you're going to see that in your own local language, when you look at the words, you see that the head will come before the monkey when you're translating rather. Okay, so I'll leave you to translate that. Maybe you can put a comment if yours is not like that. Okay, so the third point there is my name is Destiny Brutubo. Is my name Destiny Brutubo? Okay, now even though I don't have a question mark in front of that, but the way it's structured, it looks like a question. Is my name Destiny Brutubo, or my name is Destiny Brutubo? You see, they have different meaning. Okay, then the last point there is I like to eat. Eat to I like. Okay, you see that the eat to I like might not really give any meaning. Okay, or maybe if it have a meaning, I don't know. Okay, but when you say I like to eat, it's very, very straightforward. Okay, so what I'm trying to prove here is that anyhow you write a language, when you're dealing with a particular language, every language have the way it should be written and the way it should be structured in order for it to bring out a certain meaning. Okay, so that applies to what we're dealing with here, which is called programming languages as well, because programming languages are also part of languages, so they have their grammatical structures which are known as syntax. Okay, so in other words, what we are saying is that syntax are the rule that form the general acceptable grammatical structure of a language. I'm not talking about programming language here now. I'm talking about language generally. Okay, why semantics refer to the study of the meaning depicted from the syntax of that language. As you can see, like some of the example I gave, the second version of it always mean a different thing entirely, even though sometimes the words might be the same. Okay, so that is just what syntax and semantics is. So we're going to see all these things in programming language too. So what I will just advise you as we proceed is, when you are studying any programming language at all, or when we start writing these programs, you're going to see that each of the programming language that we're going to see, we're going to have a different structure, and each of this structure will have their meaning. Okay, just like when we say we're speaking English, or we're speaking French. When I say au revoir in French, I mean bye bye in English. Okay, so I'm saying the same thing but in different language, so this they will be spelled differently, and possibly the way the alphabet that will be involved, or if possible exclamations and some of the core features of the language will make it different. So it's same thing with different programming language that we're going to look at as well. Okay, sorry that I'm taking your time. Like I said before, I'm going to try to be very, very comprehensive and explain every concept we're going to talk about in a layman term. Okay, so let's proceed. So now, talking about programming language, we can also categorize programming language into various categories, even though we have different types. But before we look into the different types of programming language, we'll first of all look at different categories of programming language. Okay, so the first category we're going to see is what they call the low-level language. Okay, so computer programming language, for the record, can be categorized into low-level and high-level languages. Okay, but though there are sometimes you can also see other categories, like I saw something on Wikipedia where they categorize programming language into generations, and what they did was the categorization according to generation is based on the features of the programming language and the results they give, or how they are programmed. Okay, I'm going to talk more on that maybe, or even possibly put the link, sorry, in the description below. Okay, so but in this course we're going to stick to categorizing the computer programming language into low level and high level languages. Okay, so now when we talk about categorizing them into low level and high level language, we're simply looking at the programming language in terms of the system micro architecture, which is the way the computer system handles these instructions. Since we know that programs are set of instructions, how they handle the instruction with relation to how the computer internal component or internal structure is. That means the machine architecture, how that computer is built. Okay, so that is just it. Maybe in another video or another series, I'm going to talk about the evolution of program. Definitely I'll talk about the evolution. I think with that we're going to talk more, explain more on these various levels of programming. So to start with, we'll talk about the low level languages. Okay, so when we talk about the low level language are those that are closely related to the basic computer instruction set architecture that require little or no further translation. In other words, no heavy form of abstraction. Okay, so like what I was saying before, or when I talked about looking at the levels of computer programming in terms of the machine microarchitecture. Okay, so when we talk about the low level are closely related to the basic architecture of the computer system. That means the way the computer is built, the low level language always have to consider, whenever you're writing low level language, you have to consider how the machine is built, because the code are going to be executed according to how that is. Now, I might not really explain this concept very well, but I believe maybe if I make the other video I talked about, I'm going to really explain everything very, very well, so that you understand it better. Okay, So that is just it. So then when we talk about high level language are those with strong abstraction from the computer instruction code. Okay, so the thing is, when we talk about the the low level just they are close to the machine architecture, while the high level are not really close to the machine architecture because when they are created, they look more like a natural language. Okay, I think I'm going to tell you a little story out of it. Okay, I think that will explain it better because I don't know the best way to explain it now. It might take all the time. Okay, so but just to know that when we talk about high level, we're talking about the languages that have strong abstraction from the computer instruction set, but they are closer to natural language. I said before, natural language, human spoken language, and may consist of some elements, thereby making it easier to learn and understand. Okay, while developing. Okay, that means when, as a programmer, when you are learning programming, you look at high level languages, they are always easier to learn compared to machine language. Okay, machine language and sorry, low level language, which consists of machine language and assembly language. Okay, so that is its evolution of programming language. Yeah, I would have loved to talk about I would have loved to talk about the evolution of programming languages. Okay, so but that's what I complained in the previous slide. I think I'm not really explaining the major difference between the low level and the high level very well. So when we talk about the evolution of programming, I think we're able to look at the whole thing in details. Okay, how programming language evolved from the machine language to the assembly language, and how it evolves to the high level language. So we'll also see the differences in the two different levels of programming, the advantages as well as the disadvantages in these two levels of programming. Okay, so with that, now we'll also talk about the translators because machine language is actually the native language of the computer. So anything that is not machine language definitely will need to be translated for the machine to understand. Okay, then I said something about human readable formats the other time. Okay, when I say human readable format, the machine language are not really human readable, but rather they are machine readable. Okay, so we're going to look at all this in evolution of programming, but because of time, I'm not going to discuss the evolution of programming here. I'm going to make a separate video for it, possibly for discussing it in details. Okay, so how and why we did how and why did programming evolve from machine language to assembly language to the first set of high level language to the current stage programming language is today with a strong level of abstraction. These are the things that we are going to discuss in the evolution of programming languages. Okay, so the programming language that we're going to be using for this course, we're going to use the QBasic, which is the Quick Beginners All-Purpose Symbolic Instruction Code. Okay, now why I choose this language is because this language is one of the best language if you're talking about learning the core concept of programming. Okay, now I believe if you go online and you search for some languages, sometimes some people will tell you, or maybe most articles or most ideas or opinion will tell you that some of this language are not really relevant. Yes, they might not really be relevant. That is true for the in industry purpose. They are not really relevant. But when we talk about learning programming, when we talk about understanding what programming is, I think QBasic still remain one of the best language that you use as a beginner to learn programming. Okay, but just have that in mind because sometimes when you are asked, or maybe sometimes when you're doing some programming, you might maybe meet some people that will tell you or they'll write off these languages. Okay, but you should understand the reason why you are doing it. Okay, so that does not mean that you can use it to work in the industry tomorrow because they are more powerful and more great programming languages that you can use. Okay, so we're also going to be using Java. The main reason why we'll be using Java is because when we talk about object-oriented programming paradigm, Java is one of the best language that explain the core concept of object-oriented programming. Okay, so that is why we'll be using Java. We're going to be using Java, though for a start we might not really be talking about the object-oriented features of it, but we'll still be using it to write some of our basic programs where we start writing. Okay, but when we start object-oriented programming mainly, Java will be one of the best language we're going to use to explain most of the concepts we're going to see in object-oriented programming. Okay, also we're going to be looking at C++. Okay, C++, we'll use C++ to illustrate, we'll use it alongside Java to illustrate other programming paradigms that are not object oriented. Okay, so like I said, for a start, we might also be using them even when we are not talking about these different programming paradigms. Okay, then we're also going to use Python because Python is one of the most popular and trending language due to its demands, because it is highly demanded in the market today. So when we talk about languages that maybe when you learn you can use them in the industry today, Python is one of the most popular, if not the most popular one. Okay, and why it's popular is because of its multi-purpose nature, because you can use Python for different purposes, not just for web, not just for desktop, not just for mobile. You can use it for even AI and machine learning and a lot of other features that comes with Python. Okay, so finally we're also going to be looking at JavaScript because of its flexibility and extended functionalities. Okay, JavaScript is another language that is currently trending in the fields today. So when you are looking at different forms of development with different environments, JavaScript also cuts across multiple environments. So you can use JavaScript to develop web. Majorly, it was created for web originally, but currently now you can use JavaScript not just for web, you can use it for even desktop application and mobile application. So these are some of the languages we're going to be using as we proceed. Okay, so that is it for this video. If you're interested to learn this programming, computer programming, fundamental concept of computer programming, just the way we've laid it down, do well to subscribe to the channel Programmer City and click on the notification to get notification on any video we're going to be dropping in this series. Okay, now this channel is strictly for Programmer City. We're going to be dropping tutorial videos on this channel, but if you want to see, let's say, a live session where I'm teaching with some of my students, you go to my private channel Destiny Brotubo. I'm going to put the link in the description. Also, you can also subscribe to my channel, my private channel, so that maybe when you see some live session, and sometimes when I'm talking about some core concepts of IT, not just programming, that are not really basic tutorial, I'm going to be putting them in my own channel, but this channel will be strictly for tutorial videos. Okay, so thank you and God bless you.